18 of that note packet.
Good. So again, we're like Ms. Karp said, we're on section 1.5, and we're going to scroll on down. And we're going to lead off on example 5 where we left before. Now, example 5 says solve the equation for y and then find the value of y for the given value of x. So unlike the homework yesterday, we're actually going to do the first step to this, where we are going to solve for y first. Okay? So let's look at our first equation. I'm just going to rewrite it just so we don't have that x equals 2 confusing us. Okay, now to get y by herself, remember we're going to look at PEMDAS and do it backwards. We have y minus 6x. If we want to get that 6x to the other side, what are we going to do? Emma, what's the opposite of subtracting a 6x?
Add it.
Awesome. We're going to add 6x to the other side. Janet, when we look at like terms, is 7 and 6x like terms? No, not there anymore. We look, so 7 is a constant and 6x is a variable. Remember, anytime we're writing down an expression, we always want to write the variable first and then the constant term. So we're going to write the positive 6x, and then we're going to have the 7 on the end. So right now we have solved for y. We have y by itself. Any questions about how to solve for y? The next step is, now we're going to plug in. So we look up here, we have an x equals 2. So anytime we plug in, said it a million times, we plug in, we use parentheses. So we're going to use parentheses, we're going to put the 2 in, and I think everybody here knows how to do this step. Michael, what's 6 times 2 give us?
12.
Plus 7, what do we get?
19.
Wonderful. And that's it. So again, there's 2 steps. The first step was solving for y, and the second step is getting the answer for once we plugged in for x. Questions? I'll give you a second to copy that. We'll look at part 2. Again, on part 2, I'm going to rewrite the problem. Josh, where is the first step going to be to get y by itself?
You're going to add x to both sides.
Perfect. We add x to both sides. That's going to leave us a 5y on the left-hand side. And then what do we get on the right-hand side, Josh?
You get 13 plus x.
Good. And now the way we want to write that is variables first. X plus 13. And the reason why is a little bit later when we get into graphing, you'll always want your variable with the x first. And you'll see that. So if we get in the habit now, it'll help us later. Okay, next step. Nick, what's going to be our next step here? Or Nate, what's going to be your next step here? To get y by itself.
Divide by 5.
Awesome. We divide the left side by 5. Now we got to divide the entire right side by 5. Now here's where it's very important to pay attention. We want to break apart this 5 into 2 parts. I'm going to use this little light green. So you see that it's going to be divided both into the x and both into the 13. So when we do this, we're going to say what's in front of that x is going to be a 1, and that's going to be divided by 5, or 1/5, with our x. And then we also want to divide the 13 by 5. That's a weird looking 3 there on the 13. I apologize. That's another weird looking 3. There we go. Other questions on how we got our solution right here? And this is the correct solution for solving for y. That's our first step. So our second step now is we're going to plug in. We want to plug in 3. So I'm going to rewrite y equals 1/5. Again, when we plug in, we use parentheses. Plus 13/5. And I think we're all pretty good on this one. I'll just go ahead across and I'll multiply. 1/5 times 3 is going to give us 3/5. Mr. Korn, what's 3/5 plus 13/5?
$3.2.
Okay, let's do it just in fractions. So 3 plus 13 gives us?
16/5.
Awesome. You got it. And that's it. That's our other answer. So that's our 2 parts to the problem. We have our equation on the left, and then once we plug in on the right. Any questions on those 2? Okay, so we're just going to do a quick review, and we're actually going to get started on the homework. So quick review. We're going to skip the first checkpoint, and we're going to look for the second one where it says solve the equation for y. Okay, Emma, what's the first step for solving for y?
Would you subtract 4?
Not 4. Remember, you want to do PEMDAS backwards. 4 is multiplication. So we want to look away from that and look at the addition subtraction, which is the
So 15?
Perfect. So you want to subtract 15x from both sides. These cross out. And then now we're left with 4y equals, and again, you want to write your variable first. These are not like terms, so we have to keep them separate. Negative 15x plus 9. Emma, what's the next step?
I don't know.
We got it. So we want to get y by itself. What's the opposite of, how do we get the 4 out of there? It's 4 times
Oh,
y.
you divide it by 4.
Perfect. Yeah, you got it. Divide by 4. And now we're going to break that 4 off into 2 places. It goes, whoa. It goes to our 15 and then also our negative 15 and also our 9. So when we have this, it's going to be negative 15 divided by 4, x, plus 9 over 4. Can we reduce either of those fractions, negative 15/4 or 9/4?
Yeah.
Which one? Both of those are actually in the lowest form. And remember, we do not want to have a decimal here, so we do want to leave them as is for this one. So these are actually good on these ones. 4 does not go into 15, and then 4 also does not go into 9. So these 2 are reduced. So let's look at our second one here. And we're going to do the same steps that we just did on this side. Okay? Again, we work away from the y, and then we'll have to divide out the number next to it. So Michael, what's our first step going to be here?
Get y by itself, so subtract 10x.
Awesome. Subtract 10x. Don't forget that negative in front of the 7. Good. Michael, what's our next step?
Divide by -7.
Good. Divide by -7. And then now we're going to have to do a little bit of math. We have negative and negative. That gives us a positive. And then, so we're going to have 10 over 7. And again, that's a positive because we have 2 negatives there. We also have a positive 84 divided by a -7. So we're going to have addition or subtraction here.
Subtraction.
Perfect. And then we're going to have 84 divided by 7. Now in your calculator, you can see, does 10 over 7 reduce or does 84 over 7 reduce? And you'll see that one of those does.
84 over 7.
Good. What does that equal?
-12.
Awesome. And there we go. We are solving for y. And you'll see, especially when we get in the section with graphing, why this is important to have it in this form right here. Slope-intercept form. We'll talk about that in our next section. So we're going to look at one more example with A and B, and then we're going to get started on the homework. So we should have plenty of time to get that going. It says solve the equation for y, and then find y for the given value. So it's just like the ones we did above. So we'll move through this pretty quick so that we can get started on the homework here. Solving for y. First step, what's the first step going to be, Nate?
Substitute -4 for x.
Okay, no, so first we're going to do is solve for y, and then the second step is going to be
would you
so if we look at the left side of the equation, we would either divide by 5 or would we subtract the 10x first?
subtract the 10x?
Subtract the 10x. And we'll be left with 5y equals, now we cannot combine these terms because they're not like. We have a variable, which is a -10x plus the 30. Okay, then what's our next step going to be? Good, Nate.
Divide by 5.
Awesome. So now we're going to get y equals -10 over 5x plus 30 over 5. And then Nate, you want to do some quick math for me? What's -10 divided by 5?
-2.
Good, so we get -2x. What's 30 divided by 5?
6.
Awesome. So right now we have our equation, so now we have to plug in. So y equals -2x plus 6. Anytime we plug in, we use parentheses. We're going to plug in a -4. And Nate, since I got you on, what's -2 times -4?
8.
Good. Plus 6, what do we get?
14.
Perfect. You did a great job. There you go. And there's our two answers we have here. We have our solving for y, the first step, and then we also had when we plugged in for x, the second step. So part B is going to be exactly the same way. Have a volunteer to walk us through this one, and this is the last one from our notes today. Then we can start the homework together. Anybody want to volunteer? Oh, Mr. Korn, thank you for volunteering. Very nice of you. What's going to be our first step, Jason?
Subtract 8x.
Awesome. All right, we're left with the negative 4y equals negative 8x plus 12. Jason, what's our next step?
Change the x to a negative 5.
Oh, well, we have to finish solving for y first. We still have a negative 4 times y.
Divide negative 4.
Awesome. Divide by negative 4. And now, on this step, once we get better at these, we can actually look and do some calculator on the math or in your head. Because remember, this negative 4 is going to be, we're going to divide negative 8 by negative 4 and also positive 12 by negative 4. So in this case, Jason, if we want negative 8 divided by negative 4, what do you get?
Positive 2.
Good, you get a positive 2x. If we took 12 divided by negative 4, a positive 12 divided by negative 4, what do you get?
Negative 3.
Awesome. And then now we have it solved for y. We're going to go ahead and plug in. Remember, anytime you plug in, we use parentheses. Jason, while I got you on the line there, what's 2 times negative 5?
Negative 10.
What's negative 10 minus 3 more?
Negative 13.
Negative 13. Awesome. So that's it for the notes. Now we're going to go over to our homework. So I want to keep you on. So on Google Classroom, if you go in, you look for today, it says homework, section 1.5 practice worksheet. So if we go ahead and pull that up, if you want to bring it over to Notability or Adobe, or if you want to either print it out and do on paper. Okay, so we're going to look at 3 examples today. Off here, we'll do together. And if you have any more questions, we could certainly go over those. So the ones we're going to look at are number 1, 7, and 10. And then if we should have more time if you want to ask any additional questions. So let's look at number 1 together. It says, substitute the given value of x into the equation and then solve for y. Okay, so they want us to substitute first and then solve for y. Okay, so it's very careful to read the directions clearly, because on the other sheet, it wanted to do it backwards. It wants us to solve for y and then substitute. This one's different. So anytime we plug in, we use parentheses. So we'll go ahead and plug in 2, parentheses, we're going to plug in the negative 2 for x. And if you notice here, we have another x. So again, we're plugging in. We use parentheses times y equals 2. Josh, can you work left from right and get us our answer here? So if we get 2 times -2, what do we get?
-4.
Awesome. Now if you look, we have a negative times a negative. What do we get here?
A +2.
Good. And then don't forget the y. And that equals 2. Right now, we've talked about this a bunch. We're at our 2-step equations. Remember, these are very important to know how to solve. Okay? So we only have 2 steps and we're solved for y. What's the first step? Who can tell me? For solving for y.
Add 4.
Awesome. And for our test, you have to be very, very comfortable with solving these 2-step equations. 4 plus 2, what do we get?
6.
Good. What's our last step?
Divide by 2.
Good. Divide by 2. And then finish this off. What's our answer?
Y equals 3.
Perfect. My 3s are not looking good today. I apologize to everybody. There's some ugly 3s. Ooh. All right, let's look at number 7 together. Whoa. Number 7. Now we have new directions, and these ones want us to solve for y. Okay? So you look, here's what we're solving for right here. What's the trick we said? Any variable you want to solve for, what side of the equation should it be on, the left or the right, just to stay consistent?
The left.
Very good. So we're going to go ahead and do a little switcherooski on here. We're going to bring the right side to the left and the left side to the right because they're equal. So we have 5y plus 6 equals -3x plus 2. Any questions about why we did the first step? So now we're going to solve for y, which is now on the left side. All we did was just do a little flip-flop. Okay, first step. What do we do first to get y by itself? Do we subtract the 6 or divide the 5?
Subtract the 6.
Good. Now when we subtract it to the right side, do we subtract it from the 3x or do we subtract it from the 2?
Subtract it from the 2.
2, good. You combine it with your like terms. Very good. So 6 is crossed off. We're left with the 5y equals -3x. And then 2 minus 6 gives us a -4. Last step, we divide by 5. And we'll get y equals, does 3 divided by 5 come out even? Nope. Does 4 divided by 5 come out even?
No.
No.
No. Good. So we're just going to go ahead and rewrite. 3 over 5. Ooh, that's ugly too. 3 over 5 x. And then we remember we have a -4 and a +5. Opposite signs are negative. And then we'll just have 4 over 5. And that's it. We solve for y. Questions on 7? I have one more I want to look at with you from the homework. And that's number 10. If you notice, 10 has 2 parts. It has a 10a and a 10b. 10a says solve the equation for y. And then now 10b says we're going to plug in. So these are like the examples we looked in our notes packet, where we solve first and then plug in. So it's very careful. You have to very carefully look at the wording for what's being asked, especially when we take the quiz on Friday. So first we're going to solve for y. What's the first step we're going to do here? TJ?
Subtract.
Okay, whoever's talking can go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't
Just
see.
subtract the 3x from both.
Good, you subtract it from both sides. 3x's cross out. Now we're left with, make sure you bring down that negative there, okay? A lot of times you might not remember to bring that with you, but it's very important. You bring down that negative y equals, remember these are not like terms, you put your variable first, your constant second, and negative 3x plus 3. Now what number is in front of y here?
1.
Good, it's just like negative 1. So what we're going to do is divide by negative 1. We'll end up with, these will cross out, that'll be a positive y equals, okay, a negative negative give us a positive 3. A positive 3 and a negative 1 would be a what? Negative 3 there. And another way of thinking about that is negative y. To get a positive, you just take the opposite of the signs on the right-hand side. The opposite of a negative 3x is a positive 3x. The opposite of a positive 3 is a negative 3. And that's all we did. So now we're going to take that equation, y equals 3x minus 3, and we're going to plug in. Again, anytime we plug in, we use parentheses. So we're going to use parentheses with the 2. And Emma, what do we get here? 3 times 2 gives us?
6.
6, good. And then 6 minus 3, what do we get for a final answer?
3.
Awesome. So that's going to be 10. So right now we have some time left in the period. If you have any more questions, you can stay on with us. If you want to go ahead and work on this on your own, you may do that. But thank you so much. We'll be more than happy to field any answers or questions. Sorry.
So your homework is to finish the worksheet, and then tomorrow we will review for your quiz on Friday.